Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
In this week's episode of the Kindness Project, we look back on the best of 2022, including Soup and Cobra Kai.
Welcome to the Kindness Project, ladies and gents. I'm joined by a girl who is as cool as a cucumber and a man officially known as having a hot head. It's Russell Dames. How are we doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you? I'm doing all right, hot head. How's your head today?
No, my head's fine.
Look at him playing his hot head down. Now, last week, Russ, all you were talking about was how hot your head was. So what all our listeners want to know, unofficial question, just for you in the podcast, how hot's your head?
My head's fine. It's lukewarm.
Lukewarm head.
We're sure he's not the one that's cool as a cucumber.
He might know he's as lukewarm as a what thing is lukewarm? How would you describe something lukewarm?
Well, it's described by drink some water, isn't it?
Is it?
Liquid.
Soup. Lukewarm as a mulligatawny soup. Is that mulligatawny the one you have at room temperature? I don't know.
No, that's gazpacho or whatever.
Oh, gazpacho. That's it. Gazpacho's your lukewarm soup. Not mulligatawny. Mulligatawny. How'd you say it, Russ?
God knows.
How'd you say it, Charlotte?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right, gazpacho is the soup you have at room temperature. We know that now. That's the soup that we're aiming for. Today's question, and I'd like to get the esteemed editor-in-chief and the Thorn. I'd like their response to this particular one. What is your TV guilty pleasure? Now, I know what mine is. It is the legendary, and I've been told when we've asked this question online that actually this shouldn't be a guilty pleasure, but for me it is, Cobra Kai. Russ, have you seen Cobra Kai?
I haven't. I'll tell you what my guilty pleasure is, though.
Go on then.
Naked Attraction.
No.
Late at night, if I'm up and I can't sleep, I watch that Naked Attraction. It's baffling, absolutely baffling.
How many episodes you watch, Russ?
Well, it reminds me of a Zoom I once had. And I thought, would I go on there?
Would you go on Naked Attraction? Would you go, Russ?
I regularly say to Kelly,
I mean, you need to be attracting a mate, and you have got a partner.
right, but I regularly say
No,
to
'cause you
Kelly,
see
if I
me
come
naked.
to you, would I find you a Naked Attraction next week?
And what did she say?
She said no.
Would you go on Naked Attraction?
No.
Was the Zoom experience where you came on without your top enough?
TV show, then I might consider it. But
So when it comes to going on stuff half naked, you only do that on Zoom, right?
yeah, only on Zoom.
Fair
Only important me and you're involved in.
Yeah, exactly, clearly. And Naked Attraction is one of those that would definitely have me switching off immediately.
Well,
For me, I don't get the attraction of
No, I
Naked
know.
Attraction.
I know, that's what the baffling thing is.
How many you watched?
I watched all our series.
So, right, all it takes is watching one to go, this is baffling. You'd
just
never got to watch 10 episodes to go, this is bizarre.
just fascinated by it.
Yeah, you watch it and go, why are these people doing this to themselves?
Yeah, why?
Why?
Go on now.
No, right. So,
Why are you showing your bits and bobs to Britain? I don't
No.
no, I don't know.
That's not quite it. But you look at some people and think, why would you go on telly looking for a mate? Why not go down the pub and find
Yeah, but you could say that about anything. I mean, I know couples who've met on the web and are fantastically happy.
We know what your guilty pleasure is, and it's not Cobra Kai.
What is it?
It's that Married at First Sight or whatever.
No, that's the other one. Married at First Sight Australia. Love
Now,
it.
Married at First Sight is no better than Naked Attraction.
No,
so-
it is because people haven't got
Yes,
their
they've got
bits and
their
bobs
clothes
out
on.
on it. And
And
there
they're not
is,
showing it to us.
and this is why it's better, right? This is why it's better, and this is why it's so addictive, right? They pretend it's about a genuine interest in people finding their lifelong partner, and actually it just turns into a cat fight between everybody. And the problem is, they drag you in with this like. Because I don't like drama TV as a rule, but they drag you in by sharing enough of the
nicey
nicey stuff, and then you get hooked on the drama and go, oh, I'm going to watch it because of that. So yeah, Married at First Sight Australian, Cobra Kai, nothing where people get their bits and bobs out on the telly, no, but us, all right?
quite hooked on Below
Here we
Decks
go.
when I was round your house.
Below Decks.
Yeah, you know the.
Is that the late night version of Naked Attraction?
No.
Naked Attraction, Below Decks.
No, it's about the
No.
people and they
That's
like.
the people that work on the yachts, the private yachts.
No, I've seen it. I've seen it. I think, funny enough, my and your dad love dad.
You
loves a
could
bit
have
of
just said,
Below
"Oh, dad."
Our dad, my dad and your dad, they're the same person. Loves a bit of Below Decks. What's your guilty pleasure?
Kids cartoons.
Kids cartoons. What ones?
Oh,
There's just something about them. They're just.
I mean, when I saw
that can't
Russell,
be- that can't be a guilty pleasure. I shed a tear when they took Balamori off Sea Babies, you know. I was so upset.
you can get it on YouTube, Russ, if you have a look.
Yeah.
Or I'm sure you can get Balamori still on the iPlayer.
I can feel myself welling up that I've not every day tuned in and found out what PC Plum done.
I mean,
Like his bicycle's got to get an upgrade at
Sorry,
some point, mate.
PC Plum's now on Naked Attraction.
And you,
Is
you know
there a
what?
P?
He's
Is
showing off his PC, but
Yeah, no, but I see a
No, he's showing off his PC Plums.
I see a documentary the other week, and that's an actual island where the houses are the same colour.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of it right now. So if you are,
no PC plum though.
if you are, no, it's on Naked Attraction. PC Plum. But yeah, it's called Come to Me. I wanted to say the Island Mole, but I don't think that's
Rolly,
right.
rolly,
I
rolly,
can't
roll.
remember what
Um,
The
it's
rolliest
called.
But
mole you've ever known.
weirdly, I mean, you talk about kids' TV and Naked Attraction.
Kids TV.
I think that if Russell went on Naked Attraction, he'd look a bit like Zippy. Anyway, brotherly love, brotherly
Bad.
bants. That's what we're doing. On that note, my friends, let us know what your favourite guilty pleasure is. Okay, what show do you watch on telly that you think is like, I love it, but I'd sort of feel a bit bad? Like, you pitched my party out. I just realised I took it off and put it down, and then suddenly you're wearing it.
The
You
party's over,
literally,
Sonny.
you pinch everything. You've got half my clothes in your wardrobe. You pinch me party out. I can't believe it. And we look
Kids
forward to
do it,
getting in
Emma,
touch with
mate.
you. Huh?
Kids who would have a mate.
Well, the weird thing is, Russ, she's not a child anymore, which is a bit scary. And on that, note, we have got now we've got two singers in the podcast presenter family. Who would like to do the kindness news jingle?
I'll do it. Kindness
A weird boy, a weird boy, a weird boy, a weird boy, a weird boy. Right, on kindness.
I can just see Mum over there cracking up.
On kindness news, a weird boy, a weird boy, a weird boy, a weird boy, a weird. Perfect. I want to tell you a little story about a university who gives unexpected bonuses to all employees to say thanks for their service during COVID. The Chancellor of Vanderbilt University is recognising all the school's employees for their diligent work over the past 2 years with a surprise bonus in paychecks. All of the eligible staff faculty and postdocs will receive a £1,500 bonus in their paychecks at the end of March. That's 9,000 workers, including part-timers, who are getting the bonus. It coincided with the university's 148-year anniversary, and the Chancellor, a guy called Daniel Diermeyer, expressed gratitude for the extraordinary efforts at those at the heart of the Vanderbilt's educational mission. You know what? Interestingly, I think, in my little world of financial planning, we had a incredibly lucky and fortunate and not, even though it was challenging in parts, actually quite a smooth pandemic. Every business had, and then whatever profession you were in had challenges. But you look at the work that both teachers and people in the medical profession did, the reality is that they actually had to really, really... Did you just take your glasses out of my case?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
She's trying it on for size.
Just trying to pinch my glasses case.
I put them in there as a practical joke. Now I'm getting a migraine.
I was trying to make a really serious point. So, yes, more than 7,000 undergraduate students and 64,000 graduate students were enrolled in the Nashville, Tennessee University last fall, and the guy announced it as part of a YouTube thing. Well done to all those teachers. Amazing work in terms of getting that bonus and thoroughly deserving it. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on the Kindness Project. How are you today?
Really good, thank you. I'm looking out the window and it's a little bit of rain. It's a shame because we yesterday it was like just perfect blue sky, and you're like, is that spring? Are we sort of,
is it coming? Yeah,
on our way out of it. And no, it's obviously reverted back to what we used to. But either way, lucky to have a window to look out of, right?
True. Yeah, you got to be grateful in life. That's an important attribute. And we talked. I mean, we started like pre-interview. We started having a conversation about lockdown and the stuff that went on there. Interestingly, I think the big thing for me is we're in Hornchurch, so not a million miles away from where you are. But one of the big things for me was having the Hornchurch County Park just to go for a run. And that exercise and mental health thing, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about later. Funny enough, before you came on, Jeff, Russ was telling me, Russ is in Norfolk, and he was telling me that apparently it's fabulous weather in Norfolk, Russ, right?
Yeah, it's lovely weather down here.
Up.
Oh, up here.
Yeah.
Right, good stuff. Right, so let's just start with a really open question for the members, because we've got an international audience. Clearly, I know who you are. But for members of our audience who don't know who you are, tell us a bit about you.
Well, first of all, let's keep it close to home. I'm from Hornchurch as well, and my granddad used to live behind the fire station.
I know where you are.
Woodyard, number 1. Yeah. So I love Hornchurch, and
that'll mean nothing to our listeners in Guatemala.
Possibly not. So what I should do is explain who I am, and there's a few layers to this one, I suppose. In that, all right. So broadly, I've worked in television for about 20 years. Started off on a show called Shipwrecked, and went and lived on an island in the South Pacific for 3 months. As a 21-year-old, learned so much, but as always, there's the life that we lived sort of beforehand, and my childhood growing up in Essex was an interesting one, which we might explore later if it's relevant to where you want the conversation to go. But I think it always provides a platform and shapes who you are and who you're not. But yeah, in terms of, I now work in football, so I work for BT Sport. Like last night, I was at a Europa Conference game, and Saturday I'll be at a National League game. It's really varied, and I really enjoy it because I was a professional footballer when I was younger. I've got my UEFA B license as a coach, and I love the game, so it made sense for me when my children were of an age where they were too cool to hang around with me of a weekend. It meant that I then had permission, I suppose, to go and do something that I really wanted to do. 7 or 8 years ago, I became a talking therapist. So I trained as a life coach, and it took me about 9 months to qualify for that. And then I did my NLP prac as well, which is a great sort of toolkit for mental health generally, and to be able to help people in lots of different and interesting ways. So I love my coaching. I find human behaviour fascinating. I always have done, to be honest.
Same. Yeah,
and get a lot of. In fact, the most satisfaction I get from anything is generally sitting down and just really listening to someone and just asking them the best questions that I can think of. Use a few techniques to help someone really explore their situation and help them to progress. That'll never get boring for me. And I suppose a lot of stuff in between. I've done a lot of presenting. I've done a lot of different experiences. I'm 42. As I say, I currently live with my wife and 2 kids who are 17 and 18. They lost their mum when they were 4 and 5. So I think sometimes it's not fair for me to say I've brought them up on my own, because obviously I've had partners. But that's obviously been an interesting journey. You learn a lot from that, and I think this is a really interesting period because they're teenagers at a time when the world's slightly different to how I remember it when I was their age. So you navigate those challenges as well. Otherwise, what do I like doing? I particularly I enjoy things like cycling, reading, meditating. Really into. I've got a veg garden for the first time last year, and 80% of it came from. I really enjoyed that process.
Amazing.
Yeah. So there's a little snapshot.
Right, there is a lot to unpick there, Jeff. I know I sent some questions before the interview, but I just want to be a bit more curious about some of those aspects. So you started off talking about our experiences in childhood, sort of evolve and, help us understand a little bit about who we are now. Tell me a story about when you were a kid.
I think we got to start where it all started, and that is that my mum was 15 when she had me. And it didn't necessarily go to plan for her. She was obviously young, unprepared, and under-supported as well. So it meant that I was taken into foster care. So my first and earliest memories are from that period. As much as I was very young, I still, strangely have memories today. So that's really interesting how we can store certain things. I don't remember it being a bad experience. Obviously, you're not with your mum, and that's where you should be. So that will always, I think, bring about certain differences, nuances to your character that you maybe don't learn about until you're in your 30s. So I've been going to see a Jungian therapist for the last 5 years to do a process called reparenting, which is I realised at a point that there was always a little Jeff that was kind of with me in a lot of the decisions that I've made in the past, and certainly in relationships, and when relationships have got difficult, or with commitment, which sounds really obvious, doesn't it? If you're used to the main woman in your life not being there, and that was your first experience, then when it comes to like committing to someone where you're giving them the platform to potentially do the same, it wasn't a conscious choice, but I recognised that it was sort of a pattern and playing out.
But then you need to do the work to recognise that, don't you? You need to go through that process.
Yeah, it takes an element of maturity, I think, to get to a point where you don't want to be the catalyst for anything that's actually working against you and not for you.
Yeah.
Look, after 5 years of doing the work, I understand it far better. It doesn't impact me anywhere near as much as it does, to the point where the fact that I've been married 3 years and with Kate for 8 years obviously means that something has gone well.
Good.
Yeah, the other interesting one was that there was a crash on the Thames between two boats, the Bow Bell and
the Marchioness, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Marchioness. So that was my biological dad, who was the skipper. So I remember being on the Thames the next day and asking my auntie, who was the manageress of a floating restaurant called the Regalia. I remember saying to her, like, what's going on, all the police boats, and people would be wondering, like, what do you mean? Why wasn't you sort of looking for your dad or waiting for news on what had happened to him? The fact is, I hadn't met him and I didn't know he existed. I thought that my stepdad, who my mum was with from the age of 5 for me, he was the reason why she was allowed to have me back. And I always thought he was my real dad. Like, I think that was one of the conditions between them, is that they thought they would be able to do the best job possibly by not disclosing that actually, there was someone else around who may at some point decide that they wanted to play a part. So he was the skipper. So I learned about that when I was 13, and it was when, again, because interesting childhood, but me, my mum, my brother, we had to run away. We got rehoused in a little village called Tiptree near Colchester, and we were sat there one afternoon. My mum said to me, would you like to meet your real nan and granddad? Obviously, that's a really interesting thing to be asked, isn't it? My real nan and granddad. But instantly, and again, it's showing how subconsciously you always know everything relating to your life. However, it's whether consciously you've kind of got it there accessible at the surface. But I had like a little flashback of my stepdad sitting on the edge of the bath. He just, I think, sort of broke his way into a flat we'd been evicted from or something, and he was sat there with his hand bleeding. I remember saying, "Rob, like, your hand's bleeding," and obviously you wouldn't call your dad Rob. You would have called him Dad. So straight away I was like, oh, right, I get it. Why not my real dad? And she told me about the accident, and that's again, really interesting situation to find yourself in, because you kind of I think probably torn between a few different ways of feeling, but my natural go-to was always a positive one. It was always and I'm something I'm proud of, and I'm proud that I got the resilience to be able to, I guess, see that was the best way for me to compute what had just been sort of handed to me.
And it's not easy, is it? That process is a difficult one. So challenges then, like a lot of challenges sort of when you were younger.
Yeah. I mean, we've all got our stories, we've all got our backgrounds, and so I think what's really important is how you whether you're able to work through some of the stuff that you're carrying on your shoulders, and whether you're able to recognize that actually amongst all of those things and those experiences are some really amazing lessons that have actually given you some strengths that, if you care to see them, and obviously if you're able to get to a point of being like, right, I know that's my strength and I know where that's come from, then all of a sudden it's just a way of turning some negative things into things that will serve you.
And I'd imagine the NLP trainings help with that, right?
Yeah, that sort of added a lot. I think actually doing the coaching initially was it almost, when I was doing the training, I realised that's many of those approaches were things that I was naturally doing anyway, in terms of just having an open mind to other people's perspectives, knowing that mine wasn't the only one and the center of everything. And in fact, I was always the opposite of that. I'd always be far more interested in what everybody else thought. I'd always want to give everybody else the chance to speak and express their opinions and things like that. And I always enjoyed to kind of borrow what I agreed with from all angles, if you like. And it just meant that, sometimes the person in the room that speaks loudest and speaks most is not necessarily the wisest. They're just the ones that need to kind of that feel they need to exert some control of the situation. And so I recognised that I'd been doing that from quite a young age.
I mean, the problem is, Jeff, my natural personality is that's normally me, and I've had to learn over the years that listening more, asking more questions, being more generous in terms of that, what you can learn from listening is huge, isn't it? It's that just developing those skills over the years has been a big thing for me. Help me understand, like, the sort of life coaching stuff is, helping individuals work out what's next in their life. Super important. What was the crossover skills you use that in the like in terms of the football coaching and life coaching? Where does that? Where are they sort of connected?
Yeah, no, that's a massive point you're making, really, because as again, another thing I've realised 7 or 8 years ago when I first started doing the course is that football absolutely needed to adopt that kind of approach instead of screaming and shouting at players, and trying to elicit reactions through emotion. That actually, if we just create an environment where you're asking great questions and when you're actually empowering the individual to take ownership of their game and their development, then all of a sudden, I think the curve at which a player can improve would be far steeper than if you're doing the same sort of stuff and just trying to make them scared of doing the wrong thing, as opposed to having conversations.
Instead of having
like,
a big stick, you've got a tool bag that's full of this stuff, right?
Yeah. And it was really good to know actually that when I started asking a few of my friends who worked in the game, that actually that was something the FA were starting to incorporate, and actually all of their new sort of BA pro licenses were actually coming from a position of educator more so than sort of, I'm an ex-pro who knows what he's talking about, so you better listen to me and do what I say.
Gotcha.
So yeah, to come in from a place of education, actually some of the best football coaches are people that have come through the education system as maybe PE teachers or because again they've got that approach kind of ingrained in how they generally approach all things in life, and not just like something they switch on when they turn up at the training ground.
Yeah, really interesting. I'm not going to pretend I'm a particularly. I like to run, but I'm not going to pretend I'm particularly quick. So I don't know anything about pro sports. But one of my favourite books is a book by a guy called Dr. Steve Peters called The Chimp Paradox.
Yeah.
And it talks about how he trained the British cycling team in 2012 about understanding how their mind works and helping them. Amazing guy, really, really interesting book in terms of that. So we talked about that. Let's talk about kids in a pandemic, because as I said earlier on, I've got two. My daughter's 18, and weirdly, she went. I don't know about your son's the old one, isn't he? Or they two? Have you got two sons?
Two boys.
Two boys. So Charlotte went through a GCSEs during that first part of the pandemic.
Because I'd imagine the principles that apply, the principles you're teaching to people in the forces, even though it is designed to tackle, as you say on the website, things like PTSD and stuff like that, they're principles that potentially apply to people in civilian life as well, right?
Every single person can use them. And we're not creating anything new. We're just taking stuff that's already out there and just giving people the awareness, the knowledge.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. And it's stuff that I've used in my past. Some stuff I haven't used. I'm looking forward to implementing it into my life. But I've personally helped dozens and dozens of people that have been in a bad place, and I just simply give them a bit of understanding as to, let's start. What are you doing throughout the day? You're sitting indoors, and normally they sit indoors all day. Right, let's go and stand outside the front door. Get some fresh air, go for a little walk somewhere. Let's do a bit of journaling. Let's get stuff off your head. The journaling at night. Let's do a bit of visualization of where you want to be in the future. We talk about like animal therapy. Let's hang around with animals for a little while. It's amazing how animals can help people.
Oh, you know what? Charlotte loves that, don't you?
What?
You love a bit of animal therapy.
Oh, yeah. If I have a bad day, go and hug me dog.
You know what? Dogs are amazing for your mental health. You made friends at your college because of the dog, didn't you?
Yeah, because they have a dog that comes in every Monday and just sits at the reception, and you just like large groups of people, and they had this thing where they had like, I think they were pug puppies.
Oh, amazing.
And everyone that was on like their list of students who have potential mental health problems got to go and sit with the puppy.
Hug a pug. I love the idea.
I love it.
Hug a pug day.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So you said that you're trying to raise 3 million at the moment. And that's going to last you 2 years, did you say?
Well, it's for the development of the retreat, and it's to make sure that we've got 2 years of fun.
Work and running costs in the bag.
That's it. And then we will just what we're doing with businesses. We're saying to them, can you donate a certain amount for 5 years, say for example, and many have already agreed to that. But then there's lots and lots of different avenues you can get money for, and but once we prove what we're doing, and it's working, it's helping. You know, we really want to start sending teams out into the armed forces, head up teams, to go and then teach these methods on a wider scale. And hopefully they can then fund us. They've got the funding to do that. So it's all about just one step at a time at the moment. Let's get 2 million or 3 million even. Let's make sure that the retreat is developed. Let's get it working, and let's show people.
And then sort of expand it from there and try and get the message more widespread.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I suppose, I mean, that one step at a time thing is what you describe in terms of the journey towards positive mental health, isn't it? Because it's like, you know, as you say, you know, if you've been inside for too long, let's just take that first step and just go for a walk. You know, it doesn't need to be anything particularly adventurous. I mean, we'll talk about adventure because I am in awe of your massive running ability. I can do a slow marathon, Paul, but I'm not running around the country anytime soon. But that bite-sized chunk, you know, like just trying stuff on a incremental basis is probably the way to go, right?
Absolutely, it really is. And when we look to the end of something, so it could be, for like you say, I want to do a marathon, and some people go, oh, too much. You're thinking, you're looking at the end product. There's so much in between there.
Go for a run. You know, just like do a mile.
Do a mile, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's that incremental steps is really important. Do you want to ask about the?
Oh yeah, so you've mentioned the run, and Dad's mentioned the run a couple of times. So actually, like, what are you actively doing? Like,
tell us about sort of
run around the coast of the UK.
So I'm running around the whole coastline of England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, Isle of Wight, and Isle of Man, which has never been done before. Not all of those.
You know what? You've missed out too many islands, Paul. This is like, come on, what? Where's the Outer Hebrides? No, that is an impressive feat, mate. Honestly.
Yeah, so I'm doing it in 7 months. So I'm averaging about 31 miles a day at the moment.
Amazing.
That's 6 days out of 7. So like today's my 7th day, which is always a godsend, and I'm on a bit of a rest day. And but the run isn't about me, it's about the charity. I'm flying the flag. I've got a 4-foot flag that I fly around with. Hundreds and hundreds of people join me, if it's for a mile, if it's for a day, 2 days, whatever they want to do, they come and join me on a bike or they run. I never go home, so everything I've got is in my bag, and I run around with it. So it's about 10 kilograms worth of kit I run around with as well. And I stay with different people every evening. I've hardly ever stayed with someone that I've known. So I get to meet new people, spread the word, make connections.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like that ability to just say, I'm doing this. And you know, one of the things that we talk about quite a lot on the Kindness Project is how, given the opportunity, people are generally good. Have you found that in terms of sort of the experience and on the run so far?
I've come into contact with thousands of people, thousands so far, and I've not had one bad experience.
Yeah,
like people hear about what I'm doing, they see the flag, they ask what it's all about, and they're just, everyone's got a story. Everyone's got a mental health story, because we all have mental health. And even if they haven't got one that they want to talk about themselves, they know someone. And I've had, for example, yesterday I was on a run, and I came from Hull all the way down to Grimsby, and a lovely couple got on a motorbike and rode all the way in from York, so over 50 miles, just to say, well done, and you're doing a great job, and then rode back home again.
Love it. What's the end point? Where are you finishing?
So Liverpool. I started in Liverpool.
Okay.
And I go clockwise, just hugging the coastline as much as possible. So I've gone all around Scotland, all northwest of England, all around Scotland. I've done just finished in northeast of England. I'm in the east coast now. And once I finish, I go once I go to England and Wales, I go over to Northern Ireland, then I go to Isle of Man, and I finish my last 5k to finish back at my start point back in Liverpool. But
Liverpool's a great place to start and finish, though. What a city to do that. Why did you pick Liverpool as your start point?
Because I wanted to hit the south of England, which is where I've got a lot of support from the military. I wanted to hit them during the summer, and there's a lot of people down there. So I think we're going to get a lot of support down there. And also Scotland's a nice one to kind of get out of the way first. It's all over the place in terrain.
Well, you know what? I mean, I know you ran through our growth because my wife's mum and dad live up there. My in-laws live up there, and I had an experience in February where I was up watching the football. I was watching our growth with Cassie's dad, and it's the closest ground to the sea in the country. It wasn't a particularly pleasant experience, to be honest, Paul. I'm used to like just being a bit warmer at football matches, not wearing about 27 layers in February just to keep warm. And on that note, what I'd be interested in knowing is what has been the best and the worst experiences you've had on the road so far.
Yes, well, lots of people joining me. That's been fantastic. I've had everything from a young girl at 12 years old. She came out of her dad. She wanted to come and run. So she came out of her dad and she ended up running 14 miles.
At 12 as well?
14. She'd only ever done like 3 or 4 miles before. So I'm 14 because she was enjoying it that much.
Yeah.
It was great. And then a few days later, I actually ran with a gentleman who's 74 years old called Rob. He came and he dusted off his trainers after 14 years, I think he said. He just done 2 miles with me, and that was in the northeast of Scotland, and it just turned. And I asked him where his accent was from, and he's from Ilford, and I'm from East Ham, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah, amazing to be all that way from home and like just have somebody who's on your doorstep. And what's been the worst bit? Has injuries been, and has it been fine in terms of that, or have there been bits where it's been quite lonely? You know, tell us a bit about that.
So injury-wise, I get aches and pains. I'm just one constant pain in the leg. That's never going to go.
Right.
But when I got to Scotland, to Gretna, which was the first place as you enter Scotland on the southwest coast, I slipped in the shower and cracked 2 ribs.
Oh,
so
no.
that wasn't very nice. I've had no running injuries. I just had a silly slip.
Yeah.
That was difficult.
Shower. Yeah. Yeah, after everything you've been through in the forces as well, to slip in the shower. But yeah, no, it's it's not. I'd imagine. I mean,
Yes.
I suppose
All
part.
local.
And this is a really key factor, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of the big charities get so much prominence just because they've got marketing budgets
Yes,
and big
yes,
teams and
yes,
stuff like that.
yes.
Do you find that some of those local charities often get passed over because they just?
Yeah, I mean, COVID has really made a big impact for some of the charities. Charities also bigger charities naturally are now on the cusp of their businesses as well now, aren't they? They have to bring in X amount a year. And I've worked with a few large charities and realised the pressure, the costs, the causes, etc. It's all money. You need income, or you can't survive.
And a significant amount.
And a significant amount,
right?
and publicity costs money. So, but we reach out. Roundtable is fun and fellowship and social, as well as service and charity. That's one of the. It's not all charity, but its main concept is charity.
And I suppose one of the interesting things is that element of just building. And I don't think blokes are particularly good at it. I think, interestingly, if I look at Cassie and I's relationship, she's a lot better at making friends than me. But that community of like-minded people turns into friendships quite quickly, doesn't it?
It does. I certainly, when I was going to Roundtable, didn't go to a group of 10 to 12 people to think I could promote my services or wares. That was the least of my worries. I went there, and within 6 months I was made community person or officer. I didn't even know what to do. Nobody briefed me. I've gone to a meeting. And
By the way, you're a community officer.
That's correct. And I said, what's that? He said, you'll soon find out. So anyway, being local, I've hung around for 27 years doing it. So I do know that it's actually was meant to be. I've enjoyed meeting many groups, individuals, clubs, organisations, single people.
Steve, I think if anybody's going to do it, it should be you.
Well, it's part of travelling around as a rep, seeing properties. It was easy for me to pop off locally to a local group that needed help. And it wasn't a case that whoever come forward when we campaigned to say we've got some funds, it wasn't like just writing a cheque because they wrote in. They were visited. They were met. And they were told that we will do our best, but it has to go through a club society vote. Now, we don't make any promises, and I make that clear on the phone, that although the request has been made that they need some help, if it's financial or equipment or some service, I can't promise to do it. I can only get some facts and report back to my fellow members. And it was always done fairly. And most people and individuals, etc., that came forward, I'm pleased to report, over the 27 years have received the help in some shape or form. And most people, and we've taken votes, we've had discussions, and sometimes the discussions can get frank and heated amongst ourselves, but we do it in a balanced way, that it's proposed and seconded. And then the members get a chance to
decide,
increase sometimes the funds needed, or adapt it, or help with their skills. I've had skills being offered in some maintenance and gardening services where builders have offered their services. To add on, not only will they receive funds, they'll get specialist help.
I think the interesting thing, and one of the things that I'm really excited about, because I know that we're doing a sort of school garden project in a couple of weeks that I'm really excited about. And I've got no specialist skills in that area at all, but I'm happy to get stuck in.
Well, at least that's half
the battle. That's half the battle. I wish I had more specialist skills, but I haven't. But part of the sort of the service is often financial, but is often just saying, right, should we just get this project done and moving forward? And that's really exciting. And I know that in the years that you've been involved, there's got to be so many stories of what you're proud of. Talk to me a bit about that.
Many stories. I mean, ranging from the skills of I come from construction and surveying background, so it's not a problem for me to see a site and work out the
what needs to be done.
I can do all that. That's what I'm trained to do. And with friends and helpers. Some of the requests that we've had, talking about scouts, about 10 years ago, a young scout in Havering, sadly, was going away with his group, and he had to have a special constructed wheelchair, battery operated. We got aware of the request through his family and ourselves, and Upminster Roundtable sadly, Upminster no longer are going. Their numbers dropped, sadly, but we did it as a joint venture.
Yeah.
So we were able to fund a very strong, thick, tired, special adapted outdoor wheelchair, so that young person could go and experience all the camping holidays.
Love that.
Go up hills, it was an ATC all weather.
Yeah.
And that really did.
I mean, that sounds
That
like
was
a
really
pretty
good. That was a good
impressive
project.
shout.
It was a very good shout, and I really, really like that. Sadly, many, many years ago, and I'll never forget these two beautiful sisters. They were twins that sadly had the illness on their lungs, which will come to me shortly, which meant that they missed a lot of time of school, and as a result their coursework and everything had to be sent to them. And the teacher of the school asked us, would we be able to purchase perhaps a laptop that could be adapted so that they could get their homework sent to them by email and be able to keep up with the class, because they had illnesses of their lungs, sadly. And this is 20 odd years ago. Laptops were very expensive. I went round the local Romford stores and they were 1,500 to 2,000 each. But what goes around comes around, and I brought this up one night for a discussion with my friends, and one of the people who was my president at the time had a friend that worked for ICL, and we reached out to ICL and explained this story, that these two beautiful young girls were struggling with homework and that because they were very sick. Could we be able to get them some laptops? And ICO were marvellous and sent us free of charge 2 laptops.
Amazing.
With modem attachments,
and this is
they could attach it to the homework, and the teacher could keep in touch with the girls.
Love that.
And
when actually it wasn't that common,
and it wasn't common, and preloaded it with Encyclopedia Britannica.
Love that.
And gave them everything they needed.
But this is the weird thing. I know it's easy to point out the times when people aren't particularly generous.
No.
But actually, I think sometimes when you're given the opportunity, part of it is, like, as you say, you went to that company and they were massively generous.
Were absolutely. It was really, really lovely of them to help us with this lovely, lovely family. You know, it was a very touching story, and we told the recorder about it, and they sent a journalist out, which was even nicer to let everyone see the goodwill, the children are happy.
And you've got a special folder, haven't you, of all the stuff?
I have, and I've got it laminated. Going back, well, certainly for 10 years, I've got many stories of this wonderful goodwill, all causes. A special lady needed to go swimming, so we got her a special dry suit that she can swim and keep her heart monitor under the
so she could experience
absolutely go out in the on holiday and everything, because she couldn't catch any viral water infection. She had a special suit made for her, and it could be adjusted as she grew. So that was a nice, we've done gardens. We've done what they call sensory garden for a child that is all smelling plants. We can landscape and build a 360 circle cement path. So
they can feel their way
round the garden and put nice fencing and a gate in. This was through our friends of builders and associates, and obviously we funded the materials, but the labour was the most important. Our friends done it, we done it together.
So it's about getting involved actively in the community as well. And I suppose being effectively a national organisation, but with local chapters,
presence,
you can actually turn around and go, what's the biggest issue in my area at the minute? And I know that and a part of the conversation we had on Wednesday about that was about inflation, like the cost of living, and supporting people directly.
Correct.
And I suppose being quite a sort of, you look at some of these big charities, and we support those big charities, and have them tell their stories on the podcast. But one of the things that big charities aren't particularly good at is turning around and go, right, we're going to make a decision now, get that money directly, and it's going to have an immediate impact. Just because, and Roundtable can do that, right?
Well, we can work quick, even though you've mentioned earlier, you've just jogged up my memory on two national charities, Samaritans, for example. About 10 years ago, some of the office furniture and equipment was getting a bit tatty. So they reached out to us, and it was no issue at all. Within a week, some of the office furniture and the sofas and that was delivered. And the following year, I think we may have given a computer. So we can work fairly quick. I appreciate you're right. Decisions take time, but if 2-3 months waiting for items of equipment or furniture or service is too long, and that's why those
we
can come in and do quick.
So it's supporting people at the time they need it when they do it. And talk to me a little bit. I know we spoke a little bit about the Santa sleigh. And spoke a little bit about the firework displays.
The firework displays.
Talk to me a bit about how Hornchurch Roundtable raise money, but how people raise money generally within Roundtable.
Yeah, I mean, naturally, Chris, you mentioned earlier about the fundraising, which the main event for us is the Christmas collection. But prior to COVID, I'd say up to 4 or 5 years ago, we used to have a yearly dance, like a dinner and dance called Ladies' Night. We're year-end dance to bring our partners, our wives and partners with us for a year-end dance, and money raised on the night we would then put into a central pot, and some of that money would go to charity if it was, we did a James Bond night where people came as characters of James Bond, like one lady came covered in gold, one person came as a deep sea diver, everyone considers James Bond in his black suit.
I mean, the thing is,
all the other characters.
Do you then get, the problem is with that, do you get then just 50 James Bonds in, people just wearing their tux?
No.
What was your favourite James Bond
there were some people come as the villains, some came in the deep sea diver's suits.
Gotcha.
Some people...
Tell me there was a Jaws there. Tell me there was a Jaws.
There wasn't a Jaws because no one was high enough, tall enough, but... there was some very, very good characters.
Have you seen the modern James Bond films?
I have, yes.
What's your favourite James Bond film ever?
I think the concept and the way it's changed, for me, will always be the Casino Royale.
Okay.
I think the last one also...
I haven't watched it all the way through.
I won't say anything.
Yeah.
I think Casino Royale just made a big, sweeping, cutting statement.
What, in terms of the Daniel Craig?
I'm arrived, and I think with him doing a lot of his stunts himself. There's a great story on the beginning of the opening first one where the guy just turned up with his rucksack with no wires or lines, and he said, I'm ready to go. And obviously the actors have to be specially prepped for steel cranes and all that. But the other person, I believe, was a freebaser, world freebaser, and he had no need for anything. He was all good to go.
But you know what? I can't remember the other. I think it was one of the later the Daniel Craig ones where they got the guy doing the stunts was a parkour champion, and he's just used to running without anything,
absolutely, it's fantastic.
So who did you go as?
Do you know what, Chris? I'm going to be boring. I went in a traditional black tie. I organised it. It took a lot of my energy, but we did it with we had the tables. Obviously, roulette table. We had the music. We had the theme music, and a very, very good local DJ, really good, who also does a lot of work for charity as well. Paul Kidley. He was very good, and. It was hosted. Obviously, we gave prizes for the winners because there was fake money. You can't go in and take people's cash.
No,
but there was money, and the winners of whoever got the most got nice boxes of chocolates and a bottle of champagne, etc. But it was done in the goodwill. You paid for I think they had to pay some entrance fee or whatever. I forgot.
So fake money gambled,
fake
and
money gambling, and then the prize at the end. But that night raised about £1,000.
Amazing.
So that not only was the meal cost very low, but that raised nearly £1,000. And we had fun.
Yeah.
And it wasn't hard to sell the tickets because people wanted to come. I think we had 140, 150
And that
people.
goes back to the thing, Steve.
With partners. And,
round table is a really good way of giving people the opportunity to have some fun.
Yes.
But also raise a bit of cash
raise a little
as well.
bit of cash, the profile. We're having a good night out.
Yeah.
And
I mean, even though, to be frank, Steve,
yes,
going as James Bond to a 00, you want to go as Blofeld or somebody different. Who would you, if you could do it again and you weren't organising it? Who would you go as?
I don't know. I wouldn't say odd job.
Don't go painted in gold.
No, I'm not going to go painted in gold.
Too tall for odd job.
I think you know what, you've got. Can't go as Scaramanga, can I? Really? Because you have to have an open chest, don't you? But there's some great characters.
Oh, amazing!
I mean,
Love it.
I you know, sometimes.
I mean, you could go as Austin Powers, as like a parody of James
funny
Bond.
enough, Austin Powers, you've led me to my second one, which was a 70s night, a 60s night, and I did go as Austin Powers.
Oh, cool.
And the dress hire shop said I could keep the uniform for a week.
Right.
And I visited a person that was sick in hospital, and I went up on the train in my crushed red velvet suit, going, yeah, baby, to everybody. I was making everyone on the King's Road, London, when I visited a sick friend, laugh her head off.
Oh, amazing.
I went with the wig, the glasses, with no glass, just the black rimmed glasses, going, yeah, baby, 20-odd years ago, down the King's Road in London. Everybody was crying with laughter. I was just off to see a very dear friend in hospital, and so we did a 60s night and a 70s soul night, and everyone come as characters.
Amazing.
And I once went as an American hustler and on another function. But we've had some good social dances and drinks, and you know, it's the other side of the group. There's a good social link.
So really good laugh, raising loads of money.
Yes, it is.
You know, fun and service as a combination is a really incredible thing. And Roundtable's grown in size since
it has. I mean, naturally. Sadly, numbers have dropped. I mean, in the UK in the late 70s, I do know there was 30,000 across the country.
Right.
Now, sadly, it's down to about 3,000.
Okay.
But it is building up again. You know, there are lots of people joining, and we're reaching out to lots of people, like many societies in the country. Networking or service clubs like Roundtable, Rotary and other groups, perhaps Lions Group, also a very good group as well for service and community. There's so many. The Masons, also a very good group, wonderful for charity as well. I think perhaps the work pressures have got something to do with this. Some people in London are probably doing, all around the country, working very long hours. The thought of perhaps once or twice a month to some people, meeting on the first and third Wednesday, the pressures at home, family, work-life balance. I don't know, Chris. We are on a campaign to find more people. We have to recruit.
You know what's interesting, though, Steve, and I talk about this.
And I brought in 6 people recently.
Yeah, that's amazing, and. But it's interesting when you think about, you know, people not having time. I think the pandemic and COVID, in my experience, has made people look at their lives a bit more and say, okay, what do you want to do, and what's the right balance between? You know, if we're doing 60, 70, 8-hour weeks,
you're too tired.
You just don't want to do it.
No.
But also, are you happy just working hard and not doing other stuff that's going to be fun?
As I said earlier, this to me was like a glove to a hand. The table for me, because I work local, I could go to visit people for the charitable stuff. And also, I was quite good at organising as a kid. I seemed to be able to get together projects and plans, always had something in my mind, write it in my black book, and then come back to work and develop it. I think once when I worked for a national corporation, I organised a darts and snooker competition and brought along some famous people. I was hoping I'd get a promotion. In fact, they said to me, "You're in the wrong job. You're better at public relations and selling property." I did it to enhance.
You're better at the event management.
I was better on the event management. I got all London and Essex-based branches together for a darts tournament and a snooker tournament, and organised it myself. And I was very lucky, and I thank the brilliant secretary from the British Darts Organisation, because I used to play in the darts leagues, that helped me. He was able to organise 12 lots of darts matches at the same time. He was a brilliant all-rounder. And he knew all about organisation with me, and we put together a big corporate night where because darts, we wanted people to speed up. It was speed darts, so your matches, whoever won after 15 minutes, so we could get people, about 150 people moved along to play
so it was
games.
quite a big event.
So it was well organised, and it was with a master of ceremonies, and the snooker was on a time, 20-minute frame. So you had to hurry up to get to your next game.
Speed snooker.
I like the idea of that. The quarter-final was half an hour, the semi-final was 3/4 an hour, and 1 hour for the final.
Fair enough.
And it was, I'll tell you what, we really did have some very good players.
Amazing.
There's a few guys that come along, they must have had a good misspent youth because they could play.
They could play.
I was quite impressed. I thought I could play. I got to the semis of the darts and one guy beat me, but I do know I was very impressed with some of the local snooker players.
I don't know if everybody's the same, but I'm always a better. I haven't played much snooker. I've played a bit of pool. I'm always better one beer in. I'm always better one beer in, and then 2 beers, it all goes wrong.
I'm the opposite. I think darts and snooker seems to be. It depends if you practice enough, but with darts, I found drinking helped me.
Right, fair enough. And I suppose the sport in more recent times has gone completely anti-alcohol, and like the best darts players are like the best any sports players, aren't they?
I mean, I've been to 2 years ago. I went to the quarterfinals of Alexandra Palace, and it does seem to me that they're incredible, the speed and the accuracy.
That's a really good day out as well.
That is a very good day out. I think the fans enjoy it. There's a lot of beer and goodwill, and noise, and the kiss of telegrams and all the machine and all the TV companies have made it better.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a great atmosphere. And
So, Steve, what I want to talk about is how, if you're, and we have listeners from listeners to this podcast all over the country and actually all over the world.
Yes.
But for people who are listening either locally, or somewhere else in the UK, how do they get involved with Roundtable? How do they find out more?
First of all, Chris, if any of the readers would like to reach out to you, I would certainly.
Now, the question we asked last week. Oh, sorry,
Whoa! Hold your horses.
Easy, soldier. Go on.
'Tis the end of another podcast, but the end is never truly the end, because the end is always the beginning of something entirely new.
And we've got some really romantic people out there, because last week we asked what's the most romantic thing you've ever done for somebody. Steve Dan, who is the regular contributor to the show and the inventor of the chip loaf, if we remember that.
He didn't invent it.
He didn't invent it, but he educated me on it, which is pretty good. Steve Dan said, on our first anniversary, my wife wanted to go out for an Italian, so I took her to mine. It's quite nice, isn't it? Sharon Adkins got a car full of red balloons. Tam Kane said, when I was 15, my boyfriend at the time made me a heart-shaped chocolate fudge cake. Craig Kavanagh said, while I was at college, I made a box made of chocolate and handmade truffles. Also a rose made of sugar that my now sister-in-law picked up to show her friends. She dropped it and it shattered on the floor. And Hilary Rowland said her husband proposed on the Orient Express. All very romantic. Love that. And that's the end of another show. Have a really good week, and we'll see you next time on the Kindness Project.
Bye.
Bye.